Today it's about motivation.
Yeah.
What are our motivators? And I'm going to talk about motivators versus results.
Yeah.
Like some of them to me are very powerful motivators, so the results have like a corresponding, a correlation. There's a correlation between the results and the power of the motivator. So high effective, we're going to call it high effective results, like highly effective results,
Yeah.
and low effective. And typically I relate those to a low power motivator or a high power motivator. So, what is a good source of motivation for you that you find is highly effective?
So for me,
Yeah.
and it's because like I had to do it with me and other kids, but when I was training outside of PT wise,
Yes.
the numbers didn't motivate me, it was the results. So every so often I would practice and practice, and then people do it during PRs, but it wasn't a PR thing. It was, this is the overall outcome that I want. And when I'm training, I see those little things. And some people like to see the big scheme. Oh, I want this huge result, and they're not noticing these smaller things. Um, like for me in jiu-jitsu, I would realize, oh, this move is becoming faster. When I'm learning a different language, I'm saying I'm getting that connection quicker. And now that when you're putting it on a strength environment and a gym environment, it's you realizing, wow, it's easier for me to get into this concentric or this eccentric. I'm increasing my range of motion, or I'm reversing, I'm lowering the weight. I'm realizing I'm actually not hitting these numbers.
Why was that such a high motivator for you? Like because I understand that you can compare others, right? So we
Yeah.
obviously can relate how something was motivating me specifically in a high fashion, and then I watched somebody process that exact same information
Yeah.
and it affected them in a completely different way. Like they were demotivated by the same thing that I was motivated by. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, to you, let's use specifically weightlifting, like you just said.
Yeah.
What was the small thing that motivated you? You said it was the small game. What was the first one, like where you're like, wow, I see this. This was a clear result.
Okay, for me,
Yeah.
it's that twitch of the muscle. Some people they really want to develop a mind muscle connection with everything that they're doing, but for me, it wasn't that it's as clear as I'm moving a finger. It wasn't that.
Okay.
It was where if I wanted it to be activated, it would be activated. At least some part throughout the motion, I activated it. Like you saw me practicing a couple of days ago when I'm trying to show off my pack. And if I'm doing a bench press and I don't see a difference between the exercise and I'm just moving the weight, for me that wants to get into bodybuilding, I need to show off those muscles. I need for it to pop. So feeling that motion, and it's not a thing you can learn. It's because your muscle needs to be big enough for you to actually control it, for you to actually be able to pull it and move it. And you start to notice where like I'm cupping my hand. I'm cupping my hand and I'm seeing how big am I increasing. Like us, we do measurements for our legs and other stuff. But for my chest, like I would do checkups every session of my chest. Every chest day I would do my cup check in the same areas, and I would see, okay, now I'm actually seeing results.
Well, and to be clear with people who are on the internet who might see someone in the gym who's just standing there flexing in the mirror, I think a lot of times the misconception comes from the fact that they are vain.
Yeah.
That and I'm not gonna dissuade people from that opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it may not only be vanity.
It just looks like you're showing off.
It may not only be vanity driven. Sometimes these are some of the most powerful motivators for a person. And I was really happy that you were able to articulate that in such a clear way. So
because we do the same thing when we're doing our post week, when we're checking people and we're seeing, let me get your measurements here. I want you to stand like this. I want you to stand not flexed, then flexed. We're seeing where those peak contractions are, and then we go work out. Then we come back and say, are they better than when you started?
Right. Let's take this from. So we talked about what are some of your highest effective motivators.
Yeah.
What's a low effective motivator? So the opposite. What is something that demotivates you, or you found that when you've got that information, you're like, you know what, that kind of takes me the opposite direction of where I want to go. Was it exactly the opposite of what you've been motivated by, or was it?
No, it was completely different.
Okay.
I'm undermotivated if I don't perform well in at least one exercise. Like if I just worked out and I moved weight and I got tired, definitely, but if I just stand there and I say, well, were those reps where all those reps that I did, how close were they to failure? And for me, it undermotivates me because I'm a person that doesn't move to change the weight. If the exercise is not working, I don't change the weight. I go back, I review. It makes me mad that I don't perform perfectly because I have to keep the same weight. But then in my head, later on, I tell myself, well, if it was so easy, why didn't you do more repetitions? Because the hypertrophy range is from like 6 all the way to 30 in some instances.
Right. It's a huge range.
Yeah, and if you're like, okay, well, the weight is too light. Yeah, why didn't I just do 30 then if the weight was
so there
too
was
light?
more room for improvement in that initial assessment, and your immediate impression was